Neville Goddard taught us that the absolute secret to manifestation is feeling it real. But the modern spiritual community has completely butchered this teaching, and it is the exact reason why you are completely, utterly, and entirely exhausted. You spend your entire day desperately trying to police your own thoughts, forcing fake emotions of intense happiness, and fighting a massive psychological war to feel like a wealthy person, while the physical world continuously throws massive bills and problems directly into your face. I'm going to tell you a brutal, highly offensive truth that will instantly take 100 pounds of pressure off your shoulders. Your massive emotional exhaustion is the undeniable proof that you are doing feeling it real completely wrong. Today, as a Neville Goddard teacher, I am going to show you the true psychopathic meaning behind his most famous concept. It is called the observer state. I'm going to logically prove to you exactly why forcing yourself to feel happy is keeping you broke. And I will show you how to completely step off the battlefield and simply watch the universe hand you millions of dollars. If you are finally sick and tired of forcing fake emotions, take a brief moment to subscribe to this channel right now. Your exhausting war against the physical world ends today, and your era of absolute unbothered observation begins in this exact microsecond. We must immediately perform a violent autopsy on the absolute worst, most expensive lie that the modern spiritual and self-help industries have ever sold to you. This is the catastrophic illusion of inner work. You have been aggressively brainwashed to believe that the reason you are not a multimillionaire right now is because you are somehow psychologically or spiritually broken. They tell you that you have deep childhood traumas blocking your money. They tell you that you need to go to therapy for 8 years to purify your soul. They tell you that your energy is toxic and that the universe is refusing to give you wealth until you become a perfectly healed, enlightened human being. I want you to listen to me very carefully, and I want you to let this truth completely shatter that pathetic illusion. The quantum field absolutely does not care about your childhood trauma. The universe does not care if you have a pristine, perfectly healed psychological record. The banking system does not check your spiritual purity before depositing millions of dollars into your account. There are incredibly wealthy, highly successful people on this planet right now who have massive traumas, terrible habits, and deep insecurities. Why are they rich while you are struggling? Because massive wealth is not a cosmic reward for good behavior. Massive wealth is not a trophy given to the most spiritually purified person in the room. Wealth is simply a blind, mechanical, and inevitable reflection of your dominant assumption. When you spend years of your life desperately digging into your past, trying to fix yourself, and trying to heal your inner child so you can finally be worthy of money, you are loudly declaring to the quantum mirror that you are currently broken. You are assuming the identity of a damaged victim, and because the universe flawlessly reflects your assumptions, it will continually manifest more situations that make you feel damaged, broken, and in desperate need of more therapy. You do not need to fix your past to change your future. You simply need to abandon the old identity entirely and occupy a new one. The master of the law of assumption does not perform exhausting inner work. The master simply drops the old state of poverty like a dirty piece of clothing and effortlessly puts on the new state of massive wealth. We must now aggressively decode exactly why trying to feel it real is currently destroying your nervous system and completely cancelling your financial empire. The fake gurus on the internet have completely misinterpreted Neville Goddard's most famous teaching. They have told you that to feel it real, you must walk around your house with a massive fake smile on your face, pretending to be ecstatic and joyful 24 hours a day. They tell you that you must force yourself to feel the intense excitement of winning the lottery, even when you are staring at an unpaid electric bill. This is a catastrophic psychological error. Forcing fake happiness is incredibly exhausting, and it is the exact reason why you feel like a fraud. I want you to deeply analyze the emotional baseline of a true physical multi-billionaire. Does a billionaire wake up every single morning, look at their bank account and jump up and down screaming with intense joy because they have money? Of course they do not. To a billionaire, having millions of dollars is incredibly normal. It is familiar. It is entirely boring. The true feeling of wealth is not intense excitement. The true feeling of wealth is quiet, psychopathic apathy. It is the heavy, silent certainty of a supreme creator who knows that the money is permanently secure. When you desperately try to force yourself to feel excited about money, you are actually confirming to your subconscious mind that you do not have it, because you only get intensely excited about things that are rare and unusual. You must immediately stop trying to force fake positivity. You must completely drop the exhausting burden of trying to act like a lottery winner. You do not need to be happy to manifest millions of dollars. You simply need to be certain. Certainty does not require a smile. Certainty does not require you to jump up and down. Certainty simply requires you to stubbornly accept the final outcome, completely unbothered by the temporary circumstances surrounding you. To fully master this profound level of arrogant certainty, you must completely shift your relationship with the three-dimensional world. You must adopt the ultimate psychological posture of the master manifester, which is the observer state. I want you to imagine that your entire physical life, the people, the economy, your bank account, and your current circumstances is nothing more than a highly elaborate theatrical play happening on a massive stage. Currently, you are acting exactly like a panicked, terrified actor who is stuck right in the middle of the stage. You are sweating under the bright lights. You are forgetting your lines. When another actor does something unexpected, like your boss firing you or a client rejecting you, you immediately panic, drop your character, and start crying in front of the audience. You are desperately trying to physically control the other actors. You are trying to change the script with your bare hands, and you are exhausting yourself trying to force the play to have a happy ending. You are entirely lost in the drama of the physical matrix. If you want to force the universe to hand you millions of dollars effortlessly, you must violently step off the stage. You must walk down the stairs, leave the bright lights of the three-dimensional world, and go sit alone in the dark, quiet, comfortable seats of the theater. You must become the untouchable observer. The observer does not sweat. The observer does not forget lines. And the observer absolutely never panics when the actors on stage make a mistake. The observer simply leans back in the chair, crosses their arms, and watches the play unfold with complete psychopathic detachment. When you enter the observer state, you mentally separate your true identity from your physical circumstances. You realize that the physical world is just a delayed automatic movie that is playing out the script you already wrote in your imagination. When you sit in the dark theater of the observer state, you establish one massive, uncompromising, and permanent rule for your entire reality. This rule is not a positive affirmation. It is a cold, mathematical law of physics. The rule is this: everything always works out for me. You do not say this hoping it will become true. You declare it as the foundational operating system of your entire universe. When you lock this rule into your subconscious mind, the physical world completely loses its power to intimidate you. You stop seeing physical problems as tragedies, and you start seeing them as highly entertaining plot twists in a movie that you already know the ending to. You watch the temporary chaos on the stage, but because you are the observer sitting in the dark theater, you know with absolute certainty that the chaos is simply the bridge of incidents violently rearranging the physical atoms of reality to deliver your millions of dollars. We must now deeply analyze the exact psychological mechanism you must use when the physical world completely falls apart right in front of your eyes, because I promise you, the physical world will test your new identity. When you step off the stage and you sit in the dark theater as the untouchable observer, you do not magically stop seeing the movie. The movie is still playing on the massive screen of your three-dimensional reality, and sometimes the movie is going to show you a terrifying, chaotic scene. This is what we call the three-dimensional slap. The three-dimensional slap is that exact specific moment when you receive an email saying that you have been fired from your job. It is the moment you open your mailbox and find a massive, unexpected tax bill that you absolutely cannot afford to pay. It is the microsecond you check your banking application and see that your account is completely overdrawn, and you have absolutely no logical way to survive the week. When the three-dimensional slap hits you across the face, the amateur, the terrified actor on the stage, completely loses their mind. The amateur instantly forgets all of their manifestation knowledge. They drop to their knees, they start crying, they call their friends in a massive panic, and they start desperately begging the universe to fix the problem. They immediately accept the tragedy as the absolute, final truth of their existence. But you are no longer the terrified amateur. You are the cold, psychopathic observer. When the three-dimensional slap hits you, You do not jump out of your comfortable seat in the theater. You do not run up to the movie screen and try to physically punch the projection. You sit perfectly still, you cross your arms, and you apply the ultimate master rule of your new universe. You look directly at the massive debt, you look directly at the lost job, and you silently declare, "Everything always works out for me." You do not say this with toxic positivity. You do not say this with a fake smile. You say it with the crushing, heavy boredom of a chief executive officer who is simply reading a completely irrelevant financial report. You must understand that the observer possesses a terrifying level of emotional discipline. The observer knows that the universe operates entirely on the principle of the bridge of incidence. When you ordered the universe to make you a multimillionaire, you fired the universe from being your master, and you hired the universe to be your personal construction crew. And when a construction crew needs to build a massive 100-story skyscraper of wealth, the absolute first thing they must do is bring in a massive bulldozer and violently demolish the rotting, disgusting wooden shack of your old poverty. When you get fired from your miserable, soul-crushing job, the universe is not punishing you. The universe is simply passing the bulldozer over your old life, because you cannot become a multimillionaire while working 40 hours a week for minimum wage. The universe has to violently remove you from the wrong path so it can physically force you onto the correct path. When the amateur gets fired, they cry over the destroyed wooden shack. But when the observer gets fired, the observer actually finds it deeply amusing. The observer looks at the termination letter and almost laughs, because the observer instantly recognizes the mechanical hand of the universe doing the dirty work. The observer says, "I see exactly what you are doing, universe. You are destroying my old life because the millions of dollars are finally arriving." The observer treats the physical chaos not as a tragedy, but as the ultimate, undeniable confirmation that the manifestation is mathematically guaranteed to happen. You stop looking at physical problems as permanent failures, and you start looking at them as highly entertaining, temporary plot twists in a movie that you already wrote the perfect ending for. But there is a massive, terrifying biological reason why 99% of the human population can never actually do this. I know exactly what your logical mind is screaming right now. You are listening to this and you understand the concept of the observer perfectly. You understand that the lost job is just the bridge of incidence. But when you actually hold that termination letter in your physical hands, or when you actually look at the zero balance in your bank account, you physically cannot stop yourself from panicking. You try to sit in the dark theater and observe the movie, but your physical body completely betrays your spiritual intention. The exact microsecond you see the terrifying physical evidence of poverty, a violent, uncontrollable war erupts inside your human biology. Your primitive animal brain, the highly sensitive alarm system called the amygdala, does not understand quantum physics. Your amygdala does not understand Neville Goddard, and it certainly does not care about the bridge of incidence. Your primitive nervous system only understands two things, which are absolute physical safety and immediate mortal danger. Because you have spent your entire life trapped in the frequency of financial struggle, your primitive biology is completely addicted to the stress hormones of poverty. When the three-dimensional world slaps you with a massive bill, your logical brain tries to stay calm, but your primitive nervous system instantly detects a massive threat to your physical survival. It looks at the unpaid bill, and it literally perceives a hungry predator sprinting toward you in the jungle. In a fraction of a second, your physical biology completely hijacks your spiritual psychology. Your brain violently floods your entire bloodstream with massive toxic amounts of cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate instantly spikes to 120 beats per minute. Your palms start sweating, your chest tightens like a vice, your breathing becomes shallow and erratic, and your mind is flooded with catastrophic, terrifying scenarios about becoming homeless and starving in the street. You cannot outsmart a dysregulated nervous system. You cannot sit in a comfortable theater seat and peacefully observe the movie while your physical body is literally screaming that the theater is on fire. You cannot use positive affirmations to stop a massive biological hemorrhage. When your physical vessel is drowning in survival hormones, you are instantly violently dragged out of the observer state and thrown right back onto the terrifying stage as the panicked actor. You start reacting, you start begging, you start crying. And the exact microsecond you react with terror, the quantum mirror reflects your terror. and the universe immediately stops building your wealth and starts manifesting more chaos to match your biological panic. This is the exact reason why you keep failing. You are trying to force a psychological change on top of a completely terrified, dysregulated physical machine. If you want to permanently stay in the observer state, if you want to be able to look at a massive financial crisis and feel absolutely nothing but cold, psychopathic boredom, you must manually hack your biological hardware. You must forcefully turn off the survival alarm inside your primitive nervous system. Because this biological betrayal is the exact mechanism that keeps the entire spiritual community broke, and because I absolutely refuse to let you remain a helpless slave to your own animal brain, I have provided the exact, uncompromising physical solution for you. I want you to pause this audio right now and look directly below this video in the pinned comment section. I have left a highly specific, vital, and incredibly powerful physical protocol there for you. This is not a manifestation technique. It is a biological override code. It is designed to instantly bypass your panicked logical mind, completely regulate your dysregulated nervous system, and aggressively flush the terrifying survival hormones entirely out of your physical bloodstream. It literally forces your physical cells to drop the alarm and enter a state of undeniable, deep physical safety. Go to the pinned comment right now. Use this protocol to manually turn off your biological radar, and then come right back here to claim your absolute dominion over the universe. When your nervous system is finally calm, when the physical panic has completely evaporated from your bloodstream, and your heart is beating at a slow, powerful, relaxed rhythm, you will finally understand the true, liberating power of the observer state. You will realize that you have completely murdered the toxic culture of faking it until you make it. The internet gurus tell you that you must force yourself to smile and pretend to be a millionaire, even when you are eating cheap food and sleeping on a broken mattress. They tell you to lie to yourself and suppress your negative emotions. But the observer never lies, and the observer never fakes anything. When you go to a physical movie theater and you watch a movie about a billionaire, you do not sit in your chair and violently pretend that you are the billionaire on the screen. You do not try to force yourself to feel the fabric of their expensive suit. You simply sit in the dark, you eat your popcorn, and you watch the movie with complete detachment. You know that the movie is just a projection of light on a flat screen. You know that you are the audience, not the projection. This is exactly how you must treat your current physical poverty. When you look at your empty bank account, you do not need to force a fake smile and scream that you are rich. You simply look at the empty bank account and you say, "Oh, look at that. The movie is currently showing a scene about being broke. How incredibly boring." And then you completely withdraw your emotional attention from it. You do not fight it, you do not fix it, and you certainly do not cry about it. You just watch it pass by, knowing with absolute, unshakable certainty that the next scene in the movie is the massive financial windfall. You become completely psychologically bulletproof. This is the ultimate Teflon mindset. Nothing from the three-dimensional world can stick to you anymore. When the news tells you that the global economy is crashing, the amateur panics and sells all their investments. The observer simply watches the news, yawns with extreme boredom, and remembers that their personal wealth is completely independent of the global matrix. The observer knows that massive fortunes are always built during periods of massive chaos. When your toxic boss screams at you, you do not internalize the anger. You just observe them like a fascinating, slightly annoying biological puppet that the universe is temporarily using to push you onto a better path. You stop carrying the massive, crushing weight of trying to control the how and the when. You transform your terrifying financial anxiety into deep, psychopathic curiosity. Instead of waking up at 3 in the morning sweating and asking yourself, "How am I going to pay this massive debt?" you simply lean back in your invisible throne and you say to yourself, "I cannot wait to see exactly how the universe is going to effortlessly solve this problem for me today." You place the entire burden of physical execution entirely onto the shoulders of the quantum field. The universe is the infinite, tireless machine that possesses the computing power to move millions of people, shift global markets, and orchestrate the exact perfect coincidences required to deliver your money. You are just the observer who dictated the final destination. You are the architect who handed the blueprint to the construction crew, and now you are simply sitting on a lawn chair, watching them sweat in the sun while they build your empire. You exist in a state of permanent, unapologetic Sabbath. You do not force, you do not sweat, you do not react. You simply observe the inevitable, flawless materialization of your own divine command. We must now enter the final, most impenetrable and completely uncompromising psychological chamber of this massive $5,000 masterclass. We have completely destroyed the exhausting illusion of inner work. We have murdered the pathetic trap of forcing fake happiness, and we have mathematically proven that the physical world is nothing but a delayed, incredibly boring theatrical play. You have stepped off the terrifying stage, and you have taken your rightful seat in the dark, comfortable theater of your own imagination. But to completely solidify your absolute dominance over the physical matrix, and to ensure that you never ever get dragged back onto the stage again, we must install the ultimate psychological armor. I call this the Teflon mindset. Teflon is a completely non-stick material. Absolutely nothing can stick to it, no matter how hot or how messy the environment becomes. When you fully integrate the observer state into your daily life, your mind must become exactly like Teflon. You must become completely, totally, and ruthlessly immune to the collective panic of the three-dimensional world. Right now, society is a massive, highly contagious virus of fear. You turn on the television, and the news anchors are screaming about global inflation, economic collapse, and impending financial doom. You go to a family dinner, and your relatives are constantly complaining about the rising cost of living and how impossible it is to get ahead. You go to your workplace, and your co-workers are terrified of being laid off. The amateur, the terrified actor who is still stuck on the stage, completely absorbs all of this toxic, poverty-stricken energy. The amateur listens to the news, agrees with the terrifying economy, internalizes the fear, and immediately drops their assumption of massive wealth. They allow the outside world to dictate their internal state. But the observer is completely bulletproof. The observer walks through the exact same terrifying physical world, hears the exact same complaints, and watches the exact same news, but absolutely nothing sticks to their mind. When the observer hears people crying about the terrible economy, the observer does not argue with them. The observer does not try to spiritually awaken them or convince them that the law of assumption is real. The observer simply smiles politely, completely ignores their pathetic complaints, and internally reaffirms the ultimate master rule. The observer silently declares, "The global economy might be crashing for the terrified actors on the stage, but in my isolated, sovereign universe, everything always works out for me." You must understand that you are not obligated to participate in the collective poverty of the human race. You are the sole, absolute operant power of your own reality. The physical economy does not dictate your bank account. Your assumption dictates the economy. When you possess the Teflon mindset, you look at financial chaos, and you feel a crushing, heavy sense of boredom. You realize that massive generational fortunes are always mathematically created during periods of massive global chaos. The chaos is simply the universe violently shaking the chessboard, destroying the old systems and reorganizing the massive flow of physical money so it can eventually end up directly in your bank account. You do not absorb the fear of the masses. You simply watch them run around in a state of panic, knowing with absolute psychopathic certainty that while they are losing their minds, the universe is quietly working overtime to deliver your financial empire. This profound level of detachment brings us to the most powerful, life-altering psychological shift you will ever experience in your manifestation journey. You must permanently transform your agonizing financial anxiety into cold, psychopathic curiosity. I know exactly what it feels like to wake up at 3 in the morning, completely drenched in cold sweat, with your heart pounding against your chest because you do not know how you are going to pay a massive, terrifying debt. The human brain is a tiny, fragile, biologically limited computer. When you are hit with a massive financial problem, your logical brain immediately tries to calculate a solution. It tries to figure out exactly how to get the money, exactly who to call, and exactly what to do. But because you are broke, and because you do not have the physical resources, your tiny logical brain cannot find a solution. It hits a massive brick wall, and when the human brain cannot find a logical solution to a survival threat, it instantly generates massive, paralyzing anxiety. You toss and turn in your bed, exhausting yourself, trying to force a physical solution with your bare hands. This is the ultimate behavior of the terrified slave. You are trying to do the heavy lifting, that you are absolutely not qualified to do. If you want to permanently cure this 3 in the morning anxiety, you must immediately fire your logical brain. You must consciously realize that your tiny human intellect does not possess the processing power to understand the infinite, multidimensional variables of the quantum field. When the observer wakes up at 3 in the morning with a massive, terrifying bill, the observer does not try to solve the problem. The observer immediately remembers the master rule. Everything always works out for me. Because that rule is an unbreakable law of physics in the observer's universe, the observer realizes that the massive bill is not actually a threat. It is simply an incredibly entertaining puzzle that the universe is about to solve on their behalf. The observer takes the massive, crushing weight of the problem, removes it from their own shoulders, and forcefully drops it entirely onto the shoulders of the infinite universe. The observer shifts their internal dialogue from terrifying anxiety to psychopathic curiosity. Instead of asking, "How am I going to survive this?" the observer leans back in the comfortable theater seat, smiles in the dark, and asks, "I absolutely cannot wait to see exactly how the universe is going to effortlessly and miraculously solve this incredibly boring problem for me today." You stop acting like the exhausted, minimum-wage employee who has to scrub the floors and fix the broken plumbing. You adopt the arrogant, unbothered posture of the billionaire chief executive officer. When a massive problem occurs in a billion-dollar company, the chief executive officer does not put on a dirty uniform and run down to the basement to fix it with their own hands. The chief executive officer simply calls the management team, dictates that the problem must be solved immediately, and then goes out to play golf. The chief executive officer delegates the dirty work. You must ruthlessly delegate the dirty work of your physical reality to the quantum field. The universe is your ultimate, tireless, infinitely intelligent employee. It has the power to manipulate the minds of thousands of strangers, completely alter the global financial markets, and orchestrate the most insane, mathematically impossible coincidences just to put the money in your hands. Your only job is to be the observer who dictates the final outcome, and then rest in the absolute certainty that the employee is already executing the command. This is the true uncompromising definition of the state Neville Goddard called the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not a religious holiday. It is not a day where you do nothing and hope that an external God takes pity on you. The Sabbath is the ultimate psychological destination of the Master Manifester. It is the exact microsecond you completely and totally drop your weapons, step off the exhausting battlefield of the three-dimensional world, and enter a state of profound, psychopathic rest. You enter the Sabbath when you finally realize that the physical world is a completely dead, automatic machine. It has absolutely no free will. It has no independent power to deny you your wealth. The three-dimensional reality is nothing more than a slow, clumsy echo of your dominant internal assumption. When you truly understand this, the desperate need to fight your circumstances completely evaporates. Why would you fight a dead mirror? Why would you exhaust yourself screaming at a movie screen? You simply rest in the dark theater. You go about your physical day with extreme, unapologetic apathy. You drink your coffee, you walk your dog, you go to your incredibly boring job, and you interact with the terrified actors on the stage. But internally, you are completely untouchable. You are completely immune to their panic. You carry the massive invisible weight of your millions of dollars with absolute silence. You do not constantly check your bank account to see if the universe is working, because checking the account is an admission of doubt, and the observer does not doubt the inevitable movie they are watching. You simply rest in the heavy, arrogant knowing that right now, in this exact millisecond, while you are doing absolutely nothing, the infinite universe is sweating blood for you. The quantum field is working overtime, violently restructuring the entire physical matrix just to perfectly match the massive wealth you already commanded into existence. If you have absorbed the uncompromising frequency of this massive $5,000 transmission, your psychological architecture has been permanently and violently rewritten. You can never go back to being the exhausted, terrified actor who fights the physical world. You can never go back to forcing fake emotions, digging up childhood trauma, and crying over unexpected bills. You have completely destroyed the illusion of the three-dimensional slap. You have successfully bypassed the terrifying biological trap of your primitive nervous system, and you have forcefully seated yourself in the comfortable, untouchable darkness of the observer state. You finally understand that the universe is a flawless, obedient machine, and your physical reality has absolutely no choice but to effortlessly bend to your supreme, unbothered rule, but to permanently lock this terrifying, untouchable identity into the physical matrix of your three-dimensional reality, and to prove to your own nervous system that you have officially resigned from the exhausting job of fighting the universe, you must take one final, irreversible action. You must issue a physical command that shatters the illusion of the stage forever. I want you to step fully into the quiet, motionless, crushing power of the true observer. I want you to scroll down to the comments section directly below this video. I want you to type these exact words with the absolute, terrifying certainty of a supreme creator who is simply stating a fundamental law of physics. Do not type it with hope. Do not type it with excitement, because excitement is for the amateurs who are still surprised when things go right. Type it with the heavy, unbothered apathy of a god who knows that the movie is already finished. Type, I stop forcing the feeling. I am the observer. Let the physical movement of your fingers typing those words be the absolute final moment you ever exhaust yourself trying to fake an emotion. Make the ultimate declaration right now. I stop forcing the feeling. I am the observer. The illusion of the exhausting stage is completely destroyed. The biological panic is permanently turned off. The universe is actively doing the dirty work, and your massive financial empire is mathematically guaranteed. Go sit in the comfortable darkness of the theater, cross your arms and enjoy the spectacular movie that your beautiful, arrogant rest has already forced into physical existence.